Hello and welcome back to Lorehammer, a 40K podcast. I'm your host, Mark. Joining me today, we got Christian. Welcome.
Hey guys, I'm the Poom Slayer 99, my alter ego.
Is that how many pumas you've killed, or what's the 99 come from? The
The year
were
I was
born?
I'm 36 years old, but I was born in 99. So
Okay. That's not math, but we'll go with it. Welcome.
that's what my ID says.
We also got Jordan.
Hey, how's it going?
Jordan the Confessor. What do you have to confess here? What are with these tags?
This is you don't know the Confessors. They spread the good news of the Imperium and the unification of mankind.
Oh God.
He professes the faith.
Thematic.
He also extracts confessions from people through interrogation.
Yeah, they're also extremely violent.
Okay.
It comes with the territory.
We just did we did a Arbiters episode, and one of the Arbiters is all just about torturing, and yeah, good times for that guy for sure. Business is good on the old hive world for him. But we're not talking about them today. We're talking about Bestiary and Herbarium, where we talk about different flora and fauna, plants and animals. And this time we're doing a warp edition one. So we're talking about what we would find in the warp. The fun thing about the warp is it will have everything and nothing all at the same time. So all this might be real, but also might be fake and made up. Hard to say. We'll get into it, though, in a second. Before we do, we just got some housekeeping. The Discord, we got our Gangs versus Arbites Warfare lore event going on. This is kind of the last call here. We'll probably be wrapping up in 1 week. All the lore will be shared. So definitely go poke your head in there and vote for who do you think has the best lore and all that kind of stuff. Unique submission was Gothic Garnish on Instagram. He made a video of just Necromunda hive gangers, and he put it to some fucking sick rap music. It was 10 out of 10. Loved it. I've watched it like 10 times. Go check that out, Gothic Garnish on Instagram, and come check us out on Discord and join all the fun that we have in there.
Yeah, if you also want to help support the show, join Imperial Tithe. You can also get an ad-free version of the show for only $2.50 a month, a month. And video vision, you get video and see our beautiful faces for $5. You can also subscribe on OnlyFans to see more than that. But yeah, support the show, help keep this going, doing more shows, so that obviously means more time investment. So every dollar counts and every soldier matters. And if you have nothing to give, you can still give your life to the Imperium.
Yes. Just piles of body, take a picture of it, send it my way. That's the equal to a Patreon dollar, eh? Interesting.
Yeah. It's 10 souls to $1 is a conversion rate right now.
10 souls $1. That's cheap.
Indeed. And on that note, if you are a patron, you can also get access to the live stream and join the chat and have fun talking with us. We also do calling guests at the end of the show. So if you're a patron, come on, sign up. Yeah. Do it now.
Yeah, the chat right now is begging us for the OnlyFans. So maybe, we'll link that in the description below, where you can find our OnlyFans, each and every one of ours individual, and then our collective three-way OnlyFan. Yeah.
And then sometimes just the 2 and 2 ones.
Yeah. We want to provide as much content from as many different angles as possible. So go check that out.
I just wear a 360 camera at all times.
Yikes. Yeah.
Our first
comment,
our first comment from Kill, writing to James complaints now that they need a Slaanesh fans ASAP. So
Yes, you sick pervert. Go take a cold shower. All right, today we're doing Bestiary and Herbarium Warp Edition. So basically I went and I found a bunch of different cool monsters. I scoured a bunch of codexes. I scoured some of those Fantasy Flight Games books. I've scoured some websites. I just found a bunch of cool ones. Now, these, like I said, aren't all of them, but these were the ones that kind of stood out to me that I really enjoyed or were unique in some kind of way. Some of them also might not necessarily be beasts. Like with the warp, it's hard to describe whether if it's like a typical animal or if it's like a spiritual entity. So you get a little combo of both. And then the other fun thing about the warp is like anything's possible there. So, you might look at one of these one time and it's going to be completely different the next time you look at it. So that's been fun to kind of discover how to
Every
write
time
about.
you blink, it changes form.
Yeah, exactly. All right, let's get into it. We'll start with the bestiary. Warp-based creatures are entities born of the immaterium, a realm of raw emotion, thought, and chaos that reflects the psyches of sentient beings. Unlike physical creatures, they are not bound by the natural laws of biology or physics. Instead, they are shaped by the tumultuous energies of the warp, manifesting as twisted parodies of mortal fears, desires, and nightmares. From the slithering tendrils of predatory warp worms to the haunting silence of spectral wraith angels. These beings embody the chaotic, mutable nature of their home. Many are fueled by the will of the Chaos Gods, serving as the emissaries, weapons, and punishments. Others, like Furies or the Khymerae, wander aimlessly, predators of opportunity, driven by base instinct. Interactions between warp creatures are as chaotic as the realm they inhabit. Some exhibit solitary horrors preying on anything unfortunate enough to cross their path, while others form grotesque ecosystems, thriving amidst the demonic realms of the patron gods. They often interact with the material world in violent and insidious ways, invading as part of a demonic incursion, parasiting mortals, or being summoned by cultists. Their forms and behaviors shift to suit their emotions and psychic resonance of their surroundings, making them unprecedented threats. Each warp creature, no matter its purpose, is a living manifestation of chaos, its very existence a testament to the unyielding and corrupting power of the warp. At the end, we're going to talk about just what creature would you like to throw into the warp and see what kind of crazy creature comes out the back end of it. Is it a gorilla and you want it to come out where it can shoot lightning bolts? Maybe that's possible in the warp.
Also, enter it into an AI generated image so we can see what your creature looks like.
Yeah, the AI generated images are its own form of warp fuckery. Some of the things that they pour out of there.
So early on when like Google Deep Dream was a thing, does anyone remember that frog video? There's a video of a frog and it's just like a swirling mass that's not really clear what it is, but it's kind of a frog and kind of not, and like eyes keep it keeps shifting.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Google, the eyes, I remember that.
Yeah, look up Google Deep Dream frog, and that's pretty much what I picture anything in the warp to look like. Is this like amorphous creature?
Yeah. Yeah, barely able to hold its own shape, but it is just somehow. But then always manifesting a different thing. We're like, how did that arm get there all of a sudden?
Yeah,
very
like
AI-driven artwork.
Yeah, yeah, we've invented a tool that looks into the warp. Actually, it's called AI.
Oh God,
that's why the Men of Iron had to be destroyed. It all makes sense. It's all happening right now. We're living it.
Wow, what a time to be alive!
All right, let's get into our first creature, the Ethersites. Ethersites are warp-born parasites, first identified by xenologist Daleth Tenson. These creatures grow to reproduce within their hosts, but unlike typical parasites, they do not always consume them. Some Ethersites can inhabit their hosts for years, feeding off psychic energy rather than physical sustenance, and can even provide benefits such as enhancing psychic abilities or granting resilience against the warp's chaos. Ethersites may cause subtle physical and mental changes in their hosts, often altering their bodies or twisting their minds toward madness or corruption by the Chaos Gods. Over time, these parasites can influence their hosts to become servants of chaos, though this process is insidious and often hidden. Notably, Ethersites can remain undetected for long periods, making them particularly dangerous. In some cases, they drive their hosts toward horrific mutations or psychic abilities that make them dangerous assets in warfare, where their influence can subtly sway battles or corrupt entire military forces. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Warp-born parasites that like may or may not enhance your abilities. You may or may not know that they're even there.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot you could do with that.
Yeah, for sure. Just tons of different little kind of warp fuckery shenanigans can happen getting infected by a parasite. And I imagine each one kind of would do its own little weird kind of thing to you as well. I don't think it has a standard kind of effect on you.
Yeah, like it would be totally random. And it's cool because like some of them could be beneficial to you. Like you don't even know like this is going on, but maybe you have just like really, really good luck all of a sudden. And it's just like the warp subtly influencing, your fortunes, or all of a sudden you have a strange new ability that you've unlocked. Like you could read minds, you're a telepath or something all of a sudden, and like you don't realize you're infested with ether sites.
I can't help but think of the Gould from Stargate. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Stargate. The main enemy is like this Gould creature that it's like a little disgusting snake that burrows into like the back of your brain stem.
Also,
I feel like that would be like a warp parasite.
Yeah. Also featured in Animorphs, if you guys ever watched that, since we're talking about bestiary. There's little aliens that like crawl into your ears and control your brain.
Yeah,
I think they might be
perfect.
telepaths. It's been a while.
At the end of this episode, we're all going to have to check each other for these types of parasites. Full body check, by the way, cavity search and all, just to be safe that none of us have been infected by talking about them and summoning them into existence. So
And then we'll
look
post
forward to that on the
videos on-
OnlyFans.
Yeah, exactly. We'll just post those videos there.
Well, if you're not into warp parasites burrowing into your brain, how are you for dogs? You guys scared of dogs?
But
No.
where are they burrowing into?
Oh, they don't burrow. They just rip your flesh apart slowly, and you die extremely slowly.
That's fine.
On
Is this
that
all
note,
dogs?
I don't know, but the astral hounds are predatory, shadowy creatures native to the warp, resembling large ethereal dogs. These brutal carnivorous entities are driven solely by instinct, with no intelligence beyond their need to track and hunt psychic prey. Their keen senses are tuned to the psychic aura of living beings, and they are particularly drawn to unprotected human psychers whose psychic scent is irresistible. Astral hounds can hunt alone or in packs of up to 6, stalking their victims through the warp. Once they've located their prey, they can manifest into the material universe using the psychic power of their victim to breach reality. In combat, their bite is paralyzing, rendering their victims helpless. Afterwards, they drag their prey back into the warp, where they feed on psychers' psychic energy. Those taken by astral hounds vanish without a trace, leaving no sign of their abduction. Additionally, astral hounds can make short, disorienting jumps through the warp, appearing suddenly beside or behind their targets, making them even more dangerous to face. Man, that is like an assassination machine. Just like come in and out and take out your enemy.
Yeah.
If you could domesticate those dogs, you'd be pretty wicked.
Thankfully, we're all safe from it because, as far as I'm aware, none of us are psychers, which is kind of this cool thing that they the scent is irresistible to them, and it doesn't matter where you go, they're going to be able to track your psychic scent, and then, yeah, like Jordan said, flash up and flash behind you before they drag you back into the warp, kicking and screaming. Good puppy.
Yeah. They I imagine that maybe like a Chaos Lord would be cool if they could have like a hound or a couple of hounds or a pack of hounds that they control. Chaos Space Wolves could be a good theme for that.
Yeah, like
go ahead, Mark.
Yeah, or like any 1,000 or any Chinch serving Space Marine, this would be a cool pet for them to kind of go after rogue psychers or psychers of different sorts, kind of that. Or maybe would it be more of a Khorne thing? Because Khorne is more like the anti-psyker with like the brass collars and like more,
but he already has a flesh hound, so
sure. That's
mean,
fine.
anyone could have one. Why not
This
give
is
everyone one? Everyone can have a puppy.
You get a astral hound, and you get perfect. Underneath all your chairs is one.
Fuzz in the comments says, I wonder if they're drawn more to weaker psychers or stronger ones. Do they go for stronger ones with more psychic energy for food, but would be more dangerous prey, or weaker ones? Interesting question.
Yeah, because in nature, like typically, wolves and stuff will pick the weak one in the pack. They wouldn't necessarily go after the strong one. But from the sounds of it, and I obviously don't know my astral hounds all that well, like you are this big beacon in the warp, the more powerful you are psychically. So I could imagine that would attract them naturally too. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Grimaldus asks, are they close to fleshhounds? The difference would be fleshhounds are a god specific, and what they go after is cowards specifically, and traitors and turncoats. So kind of a different vibe there for sure. But you know, if you sent an astral hound and fucking flesh hound after me, I'd be fucked either way. I think either one's gonna drag.
I'm
me
a
past the
psyker
warp
and a
to-
coward. It's cool too because hellhounds are like a pretty common trope in like mythology and stuff. Like there's a whole like mythos behind hellhounds, and it sounds like that's very much the vibe from this thing.
Yeah.
All right, next one, the Dispayers. Dispayers are eerie and malevolent beings, often described as famished and tattered figures cloaked in shadows. They're acting beings with hollow eye sockets and mouths frozen in silent, eternal screams, excluding an aura of despair. This aura is potent enough to drain the willpower of those around them, spreading a suffocating sense of sorrow and hopelessness. Dispayers do not serve any single chaos god, but instead embody a more universal force of anguish, making them merciless and unpredictable. Their insatiable desire is not for physical sustenance, but for the destruction of mental and emotional stability. Just like my ex-girlfriend. They thrive on causing madness, tormenting their victims by feeding on their despair. Despite not aligning with specific chaos power, the Dispayers are often summoned by malefic cults for their ability to sow chaos, fear, and emotional ruin. Their appearance is often associated with the darkest corners of the warp, where they prowl like relentless stalkers, seeking out the most vulnerable prey to break their spirits. In battle, Dispayers are formidable as assassins and hunters. They are often used by those who require a target to be eliminated with psychological warfare, as their mere presence can unravel the minds of the strongest individuals.
This gives off like ring wraith vibes almost, right from the tattered robes and cloaks to, you know, causing despair and like freezing people up and stuff, you know?
Yeah.
Very kind of like just evil and terror incarnate, Grim Reaperish almost, but not really death, but kind of that form.
I picture
Terror.
like banshees or like if you ever played Left 4 Dead, the banshee in that. You know, like hair just like dangling in front of the face, like big claw hands, often like weeping in the corner. There's some cool fantasy. Like I'm already just mentally picturing all this stuff you could do model wise with everything we're talking about, and like fantasy wise, there's some good models that you could take a lot from, like the I forget what they're called, the Ghost Death faction, whatever they are called. You know what I'm talking about, Mark? Those wraiths,
Yeah, I
like
do.
all hunched over and stuff. Like you could do some cool model conversions with those.
Yeah. Yeah, what are those guys called? It doesn't really matter, but I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Cool. Up next, we have the Astral Spectres. Astral Spectres are sinister, warp-born creatures formed from the combination of weak psychic energy and the raw fabric of the warp. They arise when human psychers who will or faith is insufficient and their abilities in real space, and use their abilities in real space. The resulting psychic energy congeals in the warp, giving birth to these nightmarish entities. These specters are humanoid but can be very in appearance, often appearing as patches of semi-translucent shadow. Their presence unnerves those nearby, frequently triggering psychic phenomenon. Though lacking a solid physical form, they wield a range of psychic powers that they use to interact and terrorize more material beings. Their primary source of sustenance is the soulless essence of humans, which they feast on to replenish their own psychic energy. Astral specters are drawn to fear, relishing in creating terror. They often risk exposure by appearing before their prey in the full, horrifying form. Boo! I got you, they say. Though the exact benefit they gain from this fear is unclear, they seem to derive pleasure from instilling dread. In battle, they prefer to target psychers first, recognizing them as the greatest threat. If confronted by resistance, they manipulate weakened minds, causing confusion and even turning allies against one another. If they are overwhelmed, they will launch either a psychic assault or attempt possession of an enemy. Astrospecters are cunning and intelligent, seeking out hosts who can either fight back or whose allies will hesitate to attack them. While naturally incorporeal, astrospecters can possess bodies of intelligent beings, feeding on their souls and leaving the host a lifeless husk. They also absorb the host's memories, using them to maintain a facade of normalcy and manipulate others. It's very interesting how they're born. Like, everything has their reflection in the warp, and these guys somehow are able to congeal that emotional reflection or whatever in the warp and take solid form. Almost like really like a lot of the other ones, like the other ones we'll read here, they're almost native to the warp. They've almost always existed. Almost, these almost act more like chaos gods, where they get this energy, and very minor chaos gods, but yeah,
or like demons just manifesting off a specific kind of emotion or energy that's projected.
Yeah.
So Ebon Geists, also known as warp predators, are nightmarish entities that dwell within the warp. Predatory beings driven by a mindless hunger for the life force of mortals. They are described as being blacker than emptiness, resembling shadows that writhe and move with unnerving fluidity. Their forms are elusive and difficult to track, but their sharp talons are deadly, capable of tearing through their victims with terrifying speed. Ebon Geists typically lurk near deserted chaos altars or other places steeped in darkness, waiting for an opportunity to strike. When a mortal stumbles upon one of these cursed locations, the Geist will emerge from the warp, attacking with ferocity. Their victims are left behind as empty tusks, drained of their life essence, while the shadows of their screams linger as an eerie reminder of the Geist's presence. These creatures are not concerned with anything beyond the consumption of life. They exist to feed, and their attacks are swift, leaving no sign of their passage except the remains of their prey. The presence of an Ebon Geist is marked by a chilling silence, followed by the terror of its assault, making them particularly feared by those who venture too close to the boundaries of the warp. So are they like almost like a guard animal, you think? Too close to the warp, this thing's gonna attack you unless you can defend yourself.
Yeah, or it just is just warp evil. Just you
Yeah.
get closer, you're gonna get attacked.
Yeah. Fair enough.
What I don't like about them is how eerie quiet it is, and then all of a sudden they attack, and then it's just kind of like this scream is left behind, this eerie scream that reminds you that they were there, kind of, and then it just fades back to that silence. This yeah, very unnerving.
I feel like this whole episode could be like a good like supernatural or paranormal, like
I was thinking that too. Yeah.
episode, like shadow person. If anyone's familiar with that kind of phenomenon where people feel like there's a black mass or entity that's like watching them in the shadows, like in a dark room or something. Like if you ever get that creepy feeling, like something. Yeah. There's like a whole like shadow person phenomenon that people talk about. I'm not actually that big on like that stuff. I know Jordan kind of dabbles in.
Yeah, I dabble.
Yeah, he's a witch for sure.
He is definitely a witch.
I'm a warlock, sir.
Oh, sorry. Don't cast a spell on me. Or do you summon spells? I don't know.
Yeah.
Up next, we got the Enslavers. Enslavers, also known by various names, such as the Krell, Sirens, or
And
puppeteers, or Sirens. Okay, it's spelled different. It's not like Siren. It's Psy. But yeah, now hearing somebody else say it, English is very easy to read for others. They are terrifying species of the warp entities that possess a significant threat to mortals, particularly psychers. Their origins trace back to the war in heaven, where they emerged as powerful predators during the time of conflict between the Necrons and the Old Ones. The Enslavers use their potent psychic abilities, preying on those young races created by the Old Ones, subjugating them and turning their bodies into gateways through which more Enslavers could enter the material universe. Their appearance. Enslavers are described as having an unusual and terrifying physical form. They appear as large barrel-shaped spheroidal beings approximately 2 meters in height. Their bodies are covered in tough, leathery skin, usually brown in color, although they can change their skin tone at will. A large sensory organ, often red, pink, and orange in color, sits atop their body, though the exact function remains unknown. Surrounding this organ are 8 to 12 tentacles that are about 1.5 meters long. 2 of these tentacles are usually longer than the rest, ending in sucker pads. These tentacles serve as both sensory and manipulative organs. Despite lacking legs, enslavers can float and move with ease, using their tentacles to aid in their quick movements. They are not capable of true flight, but can float up to 3 meters and climb with ease. Their abilities. Enslavers are best known for their ability to mentally enslave other creatures. So, through psychic domination, they can take control of the minds of mortals, particularly psychers, but also non-psychers, making them perform even the most self-destructive acts. One enslaver can control up to 10 victims at once. The victims retain their knowledge, skills, and physical abilities, but all their actions are dictated by the will of the enslavers. This mental control has a limited range of up to 50 meters, and the process of subjugation often begins by drawing the enslavers to areas with strong psychic emotions, particularly from unprotected psychers. The process of enslavement involves gradual physical and psychological changes in the victim, who become lethargic and discolored before the body transforms into a living gate. This allows for additional enslavers to enter the material world, thus spreading the influence of these creatures. Once an enslaver enters the material world, it will begin to enslave more psychers, creating more gateways for additional entities to enter. Yeah, that's kind of nasty. They're just like, you get one, and then all of a sudden it's this plague that happens upon you where there's just more and more can come through until you're overrun by these things. Behavior and tactics. Enslavers are often described as being mindless in the sense that they do not engage in direct communication or use tools, preferring instead to manipulate those around them. They have been known to act rationally when it comes to achieving their goals, but their intelligence is not understood in human terms. They do not engage in physical combat themselves, but use their slaves to carry out labor or tasks, including the use of weapons. While their goals are unclear, it is known that they aim to dominate entire populations, especially psychers, to continue to spread across worlds. In some cases, they have been able to take control of entire hives or cities of humans, creating a devastating psychic network of mind-controlled slaves. Should the enslavers gain significant numbers, they can bring about a planetary scale infestation, often requiring drastic measures like exterminatus to prevent their spread. The threat of enslavers. While the threat of enslavers was not fully understood for millennia, they appear in various systems, particularly in the Scintilla system and the Black Legion's Ark of Omen. They have highlighted the ongoing danger they have posed. These creatures have been encountered by the Ordo Xenos and Ordo Malleus, who continue to investigate their origins, and hunting methods. However, due to their elusive nature, the psychic powers, enslavers remain one of the most mysterious and dangerous threats to mankind. Their weaknesses? Oh.
Yeah. And for those who are just listening, we did present a picture of what they look like. And people in the chat are saying warp tick.
Warp tick.
Which is, they do kind of look like a tick. And they're kind of a, I don't know what you call it, like a vermin that need to be exterminated. So yeah, not totally tick, unlike a tick.
Yeah, and like they just spread, and they're almost impossible to stop once they start spreading. They just multiply out of control.
And super dangerous too. Like, could you imagine this thing just taking over your people?
Yeah. One goes up to Christian and is like, we don't need this one. He's only safe from them.
Some black as wardens against these.
Yeah, that is one of their weaknesses. The other ones are enslavers are known to have difficulty controlling sanctioned psychers, those whose minds have been tempered and prepared through rigorous training and conditioning. While these psychers are not immune, their mental defenses can delay or even resist the enslaver's domination. However, if significant pressure is placed on their minds, even sanctioned psychers can break under the influence of enslavers, allowing the creatures to overrun them, despite their defenses. The risk of enslaver infestation remains high, especially if psychers are unprotected. Yeah, so psychers just got to look out for these guys. They'll find you, they'll feast on you, they'll open a portal, more will come in, they'll enslave your family.
And then enslave your world.
Yeah.
Yeah, I vaguely remember them. I think they played some kind of role, or they were mentioned, I think, in the Horus Heresy novels too. Like, they've been around for a while, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, there's some really old like artwork of them from like Rogue Trader days and stuff. Like, they're one of the more early warp type creatures.
OG.
Yeah.
All right. Speaking of OG warp creatures and real life mythology, Furies. Furies are winged demonic beasts of chaos, undivided, serving as lesser demons in the twisted hierarchy of the warp. Though not as powerful as other demons, their agility and speed make them dangerous predators in their own right. Man, all this talk of predators makes me think we need to call on an Inquisitor Chris Hansen to perform an exorcism or something. Like, everything is of some kind.
Is that what you think? I wasn't even thinking that. Christian,
to catch a predator.
Come here, Fury. Come sit down. Come sit on this couch. We
have some help.
Or just a guy who's like actually infested with enslavers, and he's like, "Come sit down. We need to talk." They're known for their leathery wings, which allow them to strike swiftly from the air, making them formidable opponents in battle. Origins and nature. Furies are said to be formed from the souls of mortals who sought to use chaos for their own benefit rather than committing to a specific chaos god. Because of this, they are denied entry into any one deity's domain in the warp. As a result, their souls are lost in the chaos of the immaterium, drifting aimlessly without the protection or purpose provided by a chaos god. The only way a Fury can escape its futile existence is to be caught up in a demonic incursion, allowing it to materialize in the real world and unleash its anger on unsuspecting mortals. That's really cool, actually. I like that they account for those people, you know? You don't necessarily have to pick.
What do you mean, those people?
Unaligned, Mark. Unaligned. You think Abaddon would become a Fury?
Yeah, that's an interesting kind of concept there. Yeah, like
King of the Fury.
Probably. Yeah, King of the Fury. Cool.
This origin gives the Furies a tragic and tormented existence. Their souls were not claimed by a god, leaving them lost in the warp, constantly exposed to its erratic and volatile nature. The nature of their existence is marked by confusion and frustration, and this manifests in their aggression once they can escape into real space. Yeah, that's also kind of cool that they are demons, but they're in it for themselves because they don't serve any higher power. So like, if you accidentally let one of these things in, it just like exists, you know, like a tormented existence, but it still exists with its own, like, for its own benefit to pursue its own goals, whatever like those might be.
Yeah, I wonder if any of these other creatures like benefit chaos gods when they do stuff like, you know, we talked about like the astral hounds when they drag somebody back and shred up their corpse, you know, is that blood for the blood god? Does Khorne benefit from such a thing? Or like all these kind of just any energy that is kind of around them at the time of, you know, they're predators, so they're eating that energy and then maybe none of it gets passed on.
Yeah, like, does it just subsist to themselves?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm sort of curious, like, maybe there'll be other beasts later on in the episode, but like, can a lot of these creatures be domesticated by like
what are you stop trying to domesticate the warp beasts?
No, but if you're a demon or something, like can you do, or even a chaos god or something, is there any stories of them doing such a thing?
Anything can be domesticated.
I just imagine that's not true. I just imagine there's always some type of binding ritual that you would be able to perform on one of these beasts to be able to like subdue it to your will. But just with the nature of the warp and chaos, like I don't think it's it's not like taming them, you know, and it's not even like dominating them to do your will. I think it'd be more like you bind them through some type of ritual, or you kind of just unleash them somewhere where you have something locked in cage, and then you drop it on a battlefield, and now you're like, haha,
Yeah,
it's gonna fuck you all up.
Like a psychotic Pokemon or something.
Yeah.
Sure, but when you unleash your dogs with rabies on people, you get arrested. What the heck?
Gotta catch them all.
all
The
the
rabies.
diseases. All right. Mindless and subjugated. Furies are often described as barely sentient, created through the accumulation of warp energy around fleeting mortal emotions. This mindless nature makes them easily subjugated by the will of the Chaos Gods. Once enslaved, Furies can take on different appearances, reflecting the influence of their patron. This transformation grants them new abilities or forms in line with the nature of the Chaos God who claims them, but their fundamental lack of will remains the same. Okay, so that's interesting. The Chaos Gods can shape them to their will, so they're not totally like independent.
Almost answered my question there. I should have maybe waited for you to.
Sure, if you're a Chaos God, Jordan.
Yeah,
Are you a Chaos God.
I'm not. No. In the comments,
This opens up.
Says, I don't feel like action by warp creatures would feed a chaos god with how important material beings are to the gods and other warp entities. I don't think the warp can self-sustain that.
Yeah, but then you get like, Korn has his gladiatorial pits or whatever, where his demons are just fighting his own demons, and that kind of benefits him, doesn't he? But it is kind of cool. These guys, like there's a lot of cool conversion opportunities there. Like you slap some leathery wings onto your bloodletter, or your weathery lings onto your pink horror, I guess, or whatever. Onto your plague bearer is another fun one. Yeah, that'd be kind of cool to kind of do these conversion furies.
And they do sell Warhammer Fantasy Furies that I'm sure you could use as like undivided versions that are just more bestial and like roaming too.
Sure.
Yeah, that'd be cool. When you were saying that thing about the warp sustaining itself too, I was just thinking of a power bar like plugged into itself. Infinite power.
The war powers itself. Yeah.
Just last point here is in battle, Furies are often used as shock troops or disruptors, flying swiftly to strike vulnerable targets. Their agility and ability to appear suddenly from the sky make them particularly useful in raids and assaults. So yeah, you can master them and, make them join your war band or whatever. This is cool. I like it. I kind of think of them too as it'd be cool if they're just like incidental to a warp incursion. So like your war band walks through, then a couple of Furies just escape through and they just wreak havoc in the city. Like just
cool.
Animals just unleashed, right? And you don't really control them, but they're just doing their thing.
Yeah.
You let one girl out in the zoo and everyone tries to arrest you.
Harambe.
All right, on to our next horrifying animal, the Jeganesh. I think that's how you say it. The Jeganesh is a unique and sinister chaos beast that serves a very specific yet highly destructive function in the service of chaos forces. It is often referred to as a drinker of seas due to its ability to consume vast amounts of liquid and transport it through the warp. That's funny. Allowing the liquid to be transferred across vast distances, sometimes even entire star systems. Overview and function. The Jeganesh acts as a warp gate for liquid transportation. Sorry, I just had to cough. It swallows liquids such as water, oil, promethium, and certain gas reserves, and sends them through the warp to be ejected onto another planet or location. This makes the Jeganesh a highly valuable tool for transporting essential resources, especially to planets that are struggling with a lack of water or vital liquids. Once a Jeganesh consumes liquid, it can send it across vast stretches of space, bypassing the limitations of physical transportation and the need for traditional supply lines. This capability allows chaos forces to quickly resupply planets, armies, or installations in need of vital resources, even if they are located far away. So, is this just a creature that literally pisses through the warp onto?
Yes, pee on me. Yes,
this is almost the
sustenance.
It's the most
vital part.
Idea.
No. It's a vital part to the warp ecosystem, Jordan.
Oh my gosh. Excuse me. So the Jeganesh is a dormant creature when not in use. In its resting state, it is small enough to be contained within a glass canister, so it can get real compact, making it easy to store or transport. However, when released into a large source of liquid, such as an ocean, river, or lake, the Jeganesh grows exponentially, expanding rapidly to its full size. Once fully awakened, the beast becomes a large looming entity capable of swallowing immense amounts of liquid. The process of expansion and consumption continues until the creature is ready to function, typically within a matter of days after being released into a sufficient liquid source. Chaos forces, particularly the Sons of Sek, utilize Jaganeshes for logistical purposes on worlds like Herbarium. The Sons of Sek have been known to deploy multiple Jaganeshes to provide water to various conquered worlds under the rule of Magistar Anaquinar Sek. These demonic creatures are essential for maintaining the supply of vital liquids across the chaos-controlled planets, ensuring that their army and inhabitants are well resourced. The Jaganesh's function as a warp gate is highly strategic, allowing chaos forces to quickly deliver liquid supplies to worlds in desperate need without relying on more traditional methods of interstellar transportation. This also makes the Jaganesh an incredibly dangerous tool, as it can be used to bring massive amounts of resources to planets in a very short time, potentially altering the course of battles or planetary occupations. It's a very unique creature. I've never heard of anything like this.
Yeah. You could even turn it into a weapon. You make it drink a bunch of promethium. Then you just unleash it on a planet. Yeah. Light a match. Boom.
Kind of reminds me of
It's also good for planetary cleanup on those planets where Khorne has flooded the whole world with blood. And you're like, well, we need to get this blood off the planet now.
There's no picture of them. I was trying to look it up, but I kind of picture like a giant mungfish with a big mouth, just slurping up everything.
Up next, we have the Khymerae. The Khymerae are terrifying warp beasts that are born from raw, nightmarish energies of a demon world. They take form as the embodiment of fear, drawn from the fabric of vivid and often horrific dreams. These creatures are cat-like in appearance, but their bodies are twisted and sinewy, covered with long fangs and many eyes, giving them otherworldly and unsettling appearance. Their overview and origin. Khymerae are born from the warp and a realm of chaotic, ever-shifting energies that reflect and amplify the darkest emotions and fear. These beasts are the physical manifestation of nightmares, which coalesce into tangible yet terrifying unstable forms. Their nature of their birth from dreams makes them unpredictable and lethal, as they exist in a state that is neither fully material nor entirely immaterial. Appearance and abilities. Khymerae resemble cat-like beasts with sleek, sinewy bodies, sharp claws, and numerous eyes spread across their form. Their eyes are often described as glowing or multifaceted, giving them a heightened sense of perception. Their long, sharp teeth and predatory nature makes them formidable hunters, capable of tracking their prey through the warp, even through the real world. That's cool. So they're on the warp, and they're in the warp, and they can still track their prey on the world as they're going. One of the most terrifying features of the Khymerae is the half material, half immaterial nature. As a creature of both the warp and the physical world, they can phase in and out of reality, making them difficult to harm or even catch. They are often described as existing in a constant state of flux, fading in and out like mist. This gives them the ability to strike unexpectedly, causing havoc on the battlefield before retreating into the immaterium.
How is that different than just a cat?
Yeah. I think these
state of flux, fading in and out like mist. That's pretty good.
It's also
attacking anyone who comes near.
Yeah.
It's also sort of interesting, just even the name, like Khymerae. like we have the word chimera as well, but it's spelled differently, like Chimera, I believe. And that's normally like some sort of hybrid creature between, two, like a goat and a falcon or something.
Lion's head. No, it's a lion's head, a goat's body, and a snake's tail.
Oh, okay. Is that? I didn't know there's like I thought it was like.
Yes, Jordan. It's very well.
I didn't know it was like a specific
creature.
thing. Okay.
People have seen that all the time.
But people use the word chimera like almost colloquial, like chimeric creature, like you're but that's not really what this is. So it's interesting their word usage for this.
I think it comes from the meaning, like the mixed part of it, because you could also have like chimeric DNA. And I think I lost my train of thought there. It's a mix of real space and warp, I think, is kind of what the thematic.
Yeah. Maybe you're right there. Yeah. Okay.
Although I don't think chimera actually means mixed. I think it means something else. But my Greek is spotty.
Fair enough.
That's fine. Your high Gothic is on point, and that's what's important in a 40K podcast. So,
I also speak
the Dark Eldar and the Chimera.
Sorry, Grimaldus says abomination, really, which, that's actually sounds more correct, but maybe I'm wrong.
The Dark Eldar and Chimera. The Dark Eldar Beastmasters are known to enter the spirit realm, a dreamlike version of the warp, in order to track and hunt down Chimera. Once they find them, the Beastmasters forces the beast to return to the real world, where they can then be used as hunting beasts. These beasts are then enslaved, trapped in their nightmarish forms, and brought to the service of the Dark Eldar. Once in real space, Chimera are used as living weapons. Their nightmarish presence can disorient and terrorize enemies, making them formidable in combat. As they are in a constant state of flux, they are often difficult to pin down and can disappear just as quickly as they appear, creating a chaos and confusion in the ranks of their enemies. Chimera often phase in and out of reality during battle, striking with sudden bursts of speed and terrifying ferocity before fading away again. It's interesting that they let them anywhere near Khymerae. Like, I know they're not necessarily psychic creature or beings, but Khymerae doesn't really like the psychic stuff. But whatever, it's fine.
Yeah. In the comments, Grimaldus asks, how many can Christian take on? Icarus says at least 3. That's very easy. I don't even believe in my abilities to that degree, so thanks for the vote of confidence, Icarus. If I'm ever in a gladiatorial arena in Khymerae fighting a Chimera, think of me.
Think of me.
I get ripped apart.
Their use against Psychers and Sisters of Silence. Chimera are particularly useful to those that deal with the warp and those who need to track down or neutralize those with warp taint. I guess that would be a good reason for Dark Eldar to use them in Khymerae. It's just like if there either was one in Khymerae, these guys would hunt them down and deal with them quickly before they have any way to damage Khymerae itself. Their ability to detect and track Psychers or entities marked by the warp makes them invaluable to the forces of chaos. They are often employed to hunt down Psychers whose very presence can warp reality around them, making them prime targets for the Chimera's nightmarish abilities. Additionally, Chimera are often used in battles against the Sisters of Silence, who are anti-psychic warriors with the ability to nullify psychic powers of others. Due to their half-immaterial nature, the Chimera are often difficult for the Sisters of Silence to completely negate, as their reality-bending qualities allow them to bypass the Sisters' ability to block the warp powers. This makes them highly effective against Sisters, as they can slip through the Sisters' psychic defenses and wreak havoc on the battlefield.
They kind of remind me of the Grinks, Mark, if anyone remembers. I think we talked about the Grinks a long time ago. They're like a more chaotic or dark. Like the Grinks always hang out with the Eldar, so it's cool that they have like a Dark Eldar version.
Yeah. If they were to battle each other, the Grinks is like a small cat, though, more like a puma-sized cat, where this is more like a tiger-sized one. Hence why you can only kill one potentially and not 99 like pumas.
Potentially, yes. No, pumas are not that
size
small.
matters, I've been told.
Repeatedly. You're just not listening.
Just
All right. Psychneuein. I've read this word before and I don't know how to pronounce
That's
it.
a tough one.
Psychneuein. Psychneuein. The psychneuein is a horrifying warp creature resembling a large, spindly wasp, measuring around 2.5 meters in length. These creatures are known for their parasitic nature, feeding on psychers, individuals, and by laying eggs inside their brains. There are two distinct genii of psychneuein, native to Mara and Prospero, but they're also known to exist within the webway, a mysterious and treacherous realm of the Eldari. Psychneuein are particularly dangerous due to their ability to infect and kill psychers through a horrific life cycle that involves parasitism and psychic corruption. Their eerie insectoid form and method of reproduction make them a terrifying threat, especially to anyone with psychic abilities. That's, again, a very common theme with all these animals.
Yeah. If you have any type of psychic power, they're probably coming after you, or they're just more deadly towards you, for sure.
Yeah, or feed on you actively. Prospero and Psychneuein. The Prospero and Psychneuein are infamous for their role in the fall of Prospero, the homeworld of the Thousand Suns. The female Psychneuein are drawn to unprotected psychers, and once they identify a suitable target, they project their tiny eggs, no larger than grains of sand, into the brain of the psycher. The egg stage. The eggs remain in the target's brain for 1 day, after which they hatch into small maggots resembling spiny slugs. The larval stage. These larvae feed on the host's brain, growing rapidly in size and intelligence. As the maggots consume the psycher's mind, the psycher experiences a gradual loss of cognitive function, eventually becoming a shell of their former self. Pupation and hatching. By nightfall, the larvae enter their pupal stage and hatch into their adult forms the following day, often in swarms. The newly matured adult psychneuein are even more deadly, being larger, stronger, and capable of flight, capable of inflicting damage and wreaking havoc on the environment. The infestation of psychneuein on Prospero almost led to the downfall of civilization there. The inhabitants of the planet had to learn how to control their psychic abilities to avoid attracting these creatures. However, even with this, swarms of psychneuein continue to haunt the wilderness and ruins of ancient cities, representing a persistent threat. And Jordan has a lovely picture. They look like giant, like I would almost describe them as a wasp mosquito hybrid. Just awful creatures that shouldn't exist in the real world. Both wasps and mosquitoes. So it's the worst of both worlds.
Oh, perfect. They got a quick turnaround too. Like 1 day you get infected in the morning, then by the afternoon you're starting to slur your words, and then by nighttime you're done. You've given birth to one of these things.
Not just one, a swarm of them.
Oh, a swarm. Perfect. Yes.
Come exploding from your head. They're a lot like that wasp. I forget what it's called, but it kind of like it injects its larva into living creatures, and then they like eat it from the inside out.
Oh yeah.
I'm sure someone in the chat knows what they're called, but yeah, there's a very well known horrific wasp that like literally like embeds its eggs into like living hosts, and then they eat it from the inside out. So
bot flies, I think, do that too. Maybe
bot flies do it, but I don't think they kill the host necessarily. They're still horrific too if you've ever seen like people extracting bot flies. But yeah, there's definitely a type of wasp that does that. All right, those were the Prosperian psychneuein, but there's another genus, the Marin psychneuein. The Marin psychneuein have similar characteristics to the Prosperian cousins, but are more specifically adapted to feed on the presence of psychers. When a psycher becomes infected, they undergo a disturbing transformation that leaves them weak and vulnerable to the creature's influence. Egg-laying. As with the Prosperian variety, the Marin psychneuein lay their eggs in the psycher's brain. Over time, the psychers lose their intelligence and begin to change physically, becoming disfigured as the larvae develop inside them. If the psycher is killed, or if they succumb to the perils of the warp, the larvae hatch and erupt from the corpse. Multiple psychneuein then emerge, and the cycle continues. The larval phase of the psychneuein is often weak and small, with the main strength being their ability to infect others. However, they can undergo rapid metamorphosis and, when injured, transforming into more powerful forms. In their larval phase, they're small and weak. These psychneuein are relatively easy to kill, but they often are found in large numbers, making them difficult to control, particularly if latent psychers are present nearby. Their adult phase. Once they mature into adult phase, psychneuein become far more dangerous. They are faster, tougher, and more perceptive, capable of flight and becoming insubstantial. Their ability to detect their minds of nearby sentient beings makes them highly dangerous to any to come into their vicinity, especially psychers. Yeah, so typically, I mean, all of them go through this larval or egg, larval, and then adult phases.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Yeah, I don't like that one. I don't like anything that injects itself into me. I would just rather be torn apart and dragged back into the warp, kicking and screaming than injecting. Yeah. You can tell I'm not gay because I just don't want anything inside me like that, just planting their seed deep in my rectum.
That was awfully specific, Mark. You can have your other seed implanted in other orifices, just so you know.
Nowhere I want. No seed planted nowhere.
Okay. So, summary of phases, Christian.
Oh no, it's the same thing again. I just kind of scanned over it.
Oh,
It just-
okay.
You summarize the summary for us.
The larval, adult, and infected phases. So,
All right. Well, then we'll go on to our next one, the Rakasia. I'm going to say Rakasia. The Rakasia, also known by various names such as the hunting horror, warp worm, or sky ripper, is a terrifying and ravenous demonic predator that inhabits the warp. This creature is a horrific fusion of serpentine and winged features, making it a formidable and fearsome entity. It is driven by an insatiable hunger for living flesh, making it a terrifying force in the realm of chaos. Some of the physical descriptions. The Rakasia is an enormous serpent-like creature, its elongated body shrouded in membrane wings, which give it an almost draconic appearance. The creature's head is vast, dominated by a slavering maw filled with teeth, and it possesses 3 lobed eyes, giving it a disturbing, unnatural gaze. The eyes themselves are said to be capable of driving individuals insane upon sight, adding to the terror the creature instills in those who encounter it. It's kind of interesting too. There's like a lot of if you look in ancient mythology, like the serpent motif is just like everywhere, and actually winged serpents is also in a lot of places as well. Even like in the Bible, I think it's the book of Ezekiel, there's like the seraphim that surround God's throne. These, if you kind of look into what these creatures are, they're like winged serpents. So kind of interesting.
Dragons are real. I heard it from Joe Rogan.
Yeah.
I heard it from his Twitter. He's a dragon believer
like
nowadays.
I know I know there's a dragon, but the dragon is like more like a lizard with wings, like a seraphim, and that's what I'm thinking with the Rakasia. I have to go look up the picture, but it's like a snake with wings, right? Like a slithery animal. Anyways, its tail is an equally horrific feature, consisting of a cluster of barbed tentacles, which it uses for both offense and capture. The overall appearance of the Rakasia is enough to send even the most steadfast warriors into a spiral of madness, as its sheer grotesque form defies sanity. The nature and behavior. The Rakasia is a warp-dwelling creature, meaning it exists in the immaterium, the warp, rather than in the material universe. However, like many entities of chaos, it is capable of entering real space through rifts and portals, typically during demonic incursions or chaotic upheavals. As a ravenous predator, the Rakasia seeks out living flesh to consume. It is driven purely by hunger, and its immense size and ferocity makes it an unstoppable force when it hunts. It is often described as a relentless demonic predator, constantly searching for new prey to feed upon, particularly those who are weak or vulnerable to its mind-warping influence.
I think I'm taken away from this one that like whenever there's like a warp a warp portal that opens up, like just with the Furies. There's so many of these creatures that come pouring through. It's not just your standard demons. It's all types of these things that could come pouring through and wreaking havoc on your planet. So like a warp invasion of this kind is just so crazy. You get to deal with Chaos Space Marines and wildlife, and
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
it's a
mean,
cool way. Sorry, go ahead, Jordan.
Oh, I was just gonna say, you like, in some ways, if you wanted to like unleash hell, you wouldn't even have to like raise an army or anything. If you could just open the warp
yeah,
and creatures, they could just devastate a planet or multiple planets, and job's done.
Job's done, me lord.
Yeah, but you're maybe not necessarily harvesting the souls, which is the important part of your incursion, or gaining whatever resources or objectives that you have. But no, I definitely agree where, yeah, they're almost like rats and vermin, like on a ship, where like, you know, bugs crawling out of all the cracks and crevices in reality, sneaking into the material world whenever they detect like an opening. So yeah.
So influence and usage. Despite its terrifying nature, the Rakasaya sometimes sought after by cultists and chaos lords who attempt to tame it for their own ends. These entities recognize the immense power and fear the creature can instill, and some may try to harness its destructive potential for their own purposes, be it in battle or in spreading terror among their enemies. However, taming such a beast is likely an incredibly difficult and dangerous task, given the creature's wild nature and primal instincts. The mere presence of a Rakasaya in an area can be devastating. Not only does its horrific appearance drive men to madness, but the ravaging it causes in its wake can level entire areas, devouring everything in its path. Cities, armies, and entire battalions can fall prey to the relentless hunger of this terrifying demonic beast.
Yeah. You just open up a portal, a whole bunch of random shit's gonna come out and wreck your planet. Very nice, very fun. Up next, we got vampires. They have such exotic names, and then they're just like, vampires. Okay. Vampires in Warhammer 40k universe are polymorphic parasitic creatures that originate from the warp, and their existence is deeply rooted in dark legends. Although their origins are mysterious, they have long been associated with myths and have been discredited by most of society. However, the truth is much darker, and these creatures are real, and they have a terrifying history of infiltrating various societies, where they often rise to positions of great power before eventually revealing their true predatory nature.
So I just have a question, like, is a vampire like truly in the category of beast? Like, it's a fully sentient being with its own even society and whatnot. Hypothetically, it can use technology. Like, would it be in that same category, or would it not be in the category of, you know, other people, like a person?
Yeah, that's a nitpicky argument right there.
Maybe.
But yeah, are they beast, or are they like what else would you call a warp creature if not a beast? I feel like, yeah.
I think actually Jordan tapped on something that does come from like real life mythology, where like vampires can be seen as both, where they straddle the line. They're not quite human but not quite animal, and they like, even though they look super refined and elegant, it's all just kind of a facade to get at what they really want, which is eating you, right? Like,
right.
It's
they're
their way of luring you in.
They're driven by like hunger, like that's
right.
Really
exactly. They don't have really higher aspirations, and of course that changes. Like, there's so many different subtypes of vampire depending on what kind of mythology you're talking about.
Yeah. Do these ones sparkle in the sun?
Yeah.
And
exactly.
to counter my own point, you know, if there's like something like a werewolf, right? Like that would be probably in the category of a beast, even though it can turn into a fully sentient human.
It's a horror trope of like
right.
that line of what is a man and what separates, you know, humanity from the beast.
Yeah. One interesting thing too about them is like they're polymorphic in nature or whatever. So we're all kind of picturing the humanoid one, but you know, Eldar could be affected by this, or just imagine an orc vampire. You know,
I love it. I want it.
yeah. History. The vampires were not originally believed to be real, instead regarded as mere legends on ancient Earth. These myths spoke of creatures that preyed on civilizations, draining their life force of their victims, and they're often depicted as undead or immortal entities. Over time, these myths were largely dismissed, but in reality, vampires are warp-born species that infiltrated different societies, sometimes over centuries, masquerading as members of the local populace. One of the most well-documented instances of the vampire rising to power occurred on Hive World Siphon 4. There, a warp-spawn vampire ascended to the high station, leading to a confrontation with the Black Templars. High Marshal Helbrich, a notable figure in the Order, was the one who ultimately slayed this vampire, an act that earned him a place among the Sword Brethren. Oh, so this was before he was High Marshal. This was just Helbrich.
Helbrich the man.
Well, the Astartes. This incident exposed the vampire as a genuine threat, although their existence remains a dark secret to most. Their background. The natural form of a vampire is that of a humanoid bat-shaped creature, but they possess a remarkable ability to alter their metabolism, allowing them to take the appearance of any race they wish. This polymorphism helps them to infiltrate various societies, where they often seamlessly blend into their surroundings. Vampires can mimic the mannerisms and physical traits of the races they seek to manipulate, allowing them to live undetected within these cultures. Despite their...
Sorry, do you think if you had like a gene stealer cult invasion and then a vampire that preyed on gene stealer cultists, so you're like 3 infestations deep?
Yeah, like the vampire lord's already at the top of the system and he's noticed that the cultists are, so now he's feasting on them like, no, this is my planet. Then they for sure that's 100% how this all works. For sure, it's written down, well documented. Despite their ability to blend in, vampires are not without their dangers. They possess powerful psychic abilities comparable to those of humans, and they maintain their existence by absorbing the life force of others. This parasitic need is typically fueled through prolonged physical contact, during which the vampire drains the energy from their victim, leaving them weak and lifeless. In extreme cases, those who are not completely drained of their life force may become zombie-like thralls controlled by the vampire's will. It's kind of neat how these guys actually can stay in real space for a long time, and the way they do it is by kind of draining the life force like this, and that kind of allows them to stay in the real space, where other ones will disappear after a while, or if the warp incursion's not strong enough, they'll fade away or whatever. But these guys have found that way to maintain that tie. Although they can sustain themselves on normal food and drink, vampires rely primarily on their predatory nature. This craving for power makes them dangerous in the complex social structures of intelligent races. Vampires are not driven just by the need to feed, but by the constant desire for dominance, often seeking to control societies from the shadows. They view other vampires as rivals and will engage in competition for control, making them a constant threat not just to their victim, but to each other. Fuzz says, now I'm imagining a 40K version of What We Do in the Shadows. Fucking great movie. I love that movie.
They have a TV show
Where's
I haven't watched yet. But...
Really?
Yeah, they did a spin-off series.
Funny.
I don't know if it's any good, but
hopefully
I can imagine it's not. Anytime you get one of those, you can almost just assume that
it's like the Australian Office.
Oh God.
Yeah, you want to talk about a mind parasite there?
I'll
get you.
Yeah, give me one of those creatures that just plants larvae in my brain, as opposed to that fucking
Fuzz in the comments says the TV show is great, so we'll take your word for it, buddy.
You better not be talking about The Office Australia edition, Fuzz.
I think he was talking about What We Do in the Shadows.
Someone else Grimaldus in the chat there was also saying Mephiston. Yes, Mephiston does fit the description of a vampire, but I do not believe he is a vampire, even though blood angels entirely are kind of like vampires. GW has a thing for vampires, eh? Even Dark Eldar
Vampires and
can be
wolves.
vampires.
Yeah.
They're also vampires for your money. They just suck all your money out of your
Out of your
pocket.
Ah!
That explains it all.
There's a
Oh,
theme
man.
here.
I don't like it. Vampires in society. Vampires typically thrive in societies where they can hide their true nature and gain influence over the population. They are adept at weaving themselves into positions of power, often becoming rulers, politicians, and leaders of significant factions, all the while secretly draining the life their followers to sustain themselves. Their ability to assume the form of their chosen race allows them to manipulate entire populations without being detected, which makes them particularly insidious in the galaxy's various civilizations. Their craving for power extends beyond mere survival. They thrive on it, constantly seeking to expand their influence. However, this rivalry with other vampires adds a level of complexity to their existence. As they vie for dominance, they often engage in subversive tactics against one another, competing in a secret shadowy war that only can tear societies apart if left unchecked. So, like, do you think multiple vampires always somehow find each other on the same planets? You know, like certain places are just prone to vampire invasions, or like, why would they not separate out a little more, you know?
Spread out a bit.
Yeah.
Who knows? I like to think both are equally plausible, where you could have like different, even groups of vampires, right? Like a couple of them come to your planet.
Sure.
Either faction side. And I like the idea of like the shadow war where they're waging against each other, but they can't be open about it. So like you'll have a really prominent, like very charismatic leader, and then another charismatic leader on the other side of the planet will kind of rise up, and then they'll like engage in their like shadow war. And they both suspect something's up, but
Yeah, after 400 years, like, hey,
hey, you're not
guys
dead yet.
I think he might be a vampire too.
Yeah.
And maybe that's kind of like they almost like thrive on that, like they like dominating, so they almost want to be in competition with each other. They get off to that kind of thing as well. That power struggle.
Yeah, I mean animals often too, right? When they encounter each other in nature, they will fight for territory rather than just like move on, especially if they're predators. Well, might not be entirely true. Some predators, I think, avoid conflict. I think it depends on how they hunt. But anyways, I went on a rip there. All right. Moving on from vampires, let's talk about angels. Wraith angels. The Wraith Angel is a terrifying warp entity, often described as a twisted and debased version of an angelic figure. These creatures are deeply disturbing, not only because of their angelic appearance, but also due to the horrific nature of their existence and abilities. A Wraith Angel resembles an angel in its basic form, with the most striking feature being its spectral, glowing wings. However, these wings are not like those of celestial beings. They are instead a manifestation of angelic radiance, a kind of eerie, ghostly light. The creature's skin is pale, with blade wounds crisscrossing its body, causing it to weep blood from the gaping carvings etched in its flesh. Its eyes are described as haunting, adding to a nightmarish nature of its form. We started out great there, and then we quickly changed our description. The cool like glow of the wings is cool. It kind of reminds me of the angels in Diablo, kind of where it's like projections of light rather than like feathered wings.
Yeah.
And then obviously crisscross with horrific bodily mutilations. Abilities and tactics. Despite the angelic appearance, the Wraith Angel is a predatory creature driven by deep malice, and it is anything but benevolent. These creatures are typically encountered in packs, moving silently and without any weaponry, relying entirely on their horrific abilities to subdue their enemies. The primary threat posed by Wraith Angel lies in its sucking attack. When it targets a victim, the Wraith Angel attaches its mouth to its flesh or armor of its prey and begins to drain their strength. I was going to make a joke, but I'm not going to. This parasitic action can even paralyze a formidable opponent, such as a Grey Knight, known for their strength and resilience. The act of the siphoning of the victim's energy causes immense physical and mental drain, leaving the victim weakened and helpless. It's crazy that they even pose a threat to Grey Knights.
Yeah, like even the wards don't do nothing against them. You just can kind of latch on and drain that
Make
power.
sure you keep their mouths off of you. Harder to do for some of the more good-looking of us, but
Nah,
in
it's
addition
not my
to
problem, but
but you can understand the plight of someone like Jordan.
yeah, Jordan, look out.
Mouths everywhere, trying to feed on you.
Oh,
In
stop.
addition to their strength sapping ability, Wraith Angels can also incite a powerful emotional response in their enemies. They have the ability to generate feelings of anger and hatred, which can overwhelm and blind their foes to the situation at hand. This emotional manipulation makes them particularly dangerous, as it can lead to their victims to act irrationally, potentially turning against allies or making the fatal mistakes in battle. So, yeah. Interesting. It's cool. I like those creatures that kind of like look like they could be good and then end up being horrific. I think that's always a cool trope that I like.
Lure you
Now,
in.
Yeah.
Now on to my favorite part, the herbarium. So we're getting into
Jordan loves his
plants.
plants.
Well, I'm something of a gardener myself, you
Are you really?
know.
I'm the animal abuser and Jordan's the gardener. What a perfect pair for this episode.
Warp-based plants are the surreal and often grotesque flora that exist within the immaterium, shaped by the chaotic energies and whims of the warp. Unlike natural plants, these entities do not adhere to biological norms. They grow from emotions, psychic resonance, or the will of chaos gods, rather than soil, sunlight, or water. Each plant in the warp is a reflection of its chaotic origin, often serving a purpose far beyond mere existence. Some, like Nurgle's Feculent Gnarlmaws, are living extensions of their master's will, spreading disease and decay, while others, such as the Deathbell Lilies, are symbolic manifestations chiming in response to mortal deaths caused by Nurgle's plagues. Warp flora interact with their environment in deeply unsettling ways, often forming symbiotic or parasitic relationships with other warp entities. These plants can exude psychic auras, spawn lesser demons, or serve as conduits for warp energies. For instance, the gnarlwoods of Nurgle's garden act as a birthing ground for his demons, while other flora may lash out with tendrils, secrete toxins, or emit spores that corrupt real space environments when summoned into the material realm. These plants are not passive. They are active participants in the ever-changing madness of the warp, embodying the chaotic, unrelenting life cycles of an unnatural universe.
Yeah. A lot of these ones seem to tie directly to Nurgle. I wonder if that's just what I was able to find, or if it's just with Nurgle death and decay and growth, it's just kind of tied into that theme, that cycle of it all. But
yeah, I actually kind of I love this idea because there is something, even in nature, there's something very chaotic. If you go to like the Amazon jungle or the Congo or something, we're always finding like new species and whatnot. And it is, I don't know, there are species of plants that are very alien to us. So, and how much more so in the warp,
yeah.
It's like, I think it's a really cool idea that you could play around with in a lot of stories, which I'm sure. Grimaldus in the comments says Panama, perhaps this is what it's like in Panama. I don't know, maybe.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there's plants that are trying to kill you, and yeah, for sure. I always picture different planets or different places that get sucked into warp, and then what would happen to all the wildlife, the flora and fauna that would like go into it. All of a sudden, the trees grow legs and turn into tree beard almost, and start walking around, and you could just get
damn ants.
yeah. We'll start with the gnarlwood. The gnarlwoods are grotesque and twisted demonic trees that grow abundantly within the Garden of Nurgle, the festering realm of the chaos gods of disease and decay. These trees serve as both a symbol of Nurgle's morbid creativity and a vital component of the endless cycle of life, death, and rebirth that defines his domain. Description. Gnarl woods are far from ordinary trees. Their appearance is like sickening and unnatural, with gnarled and rotting bark and pulsating burrows that ooze with the vile fluids of Nurgle's corruption. They grow in countless groves scattered through the Garden of Nurgle, forming forests of decay where now horrors and consistently birthed. Role in the garden. The gnarlwoods are essential to the rebirth process of Nurgle's demons. Whether in real space or in the warp, it is not truly lost. When a demon of Nurgle is destroyed, whether in real space or in the warp, it is not truly lost. Instead, its essence is returned to the garden, where the gnarlwoods play a crucial role. Rebirth process. The destroyed demon's essence emerges from the burrows of the gnarlwood in a sick birthing sac. This sac contains the essence of a demon in the miniature embryonic state. Growth and development. The demons remain in their sacs, dreaming and growing, awaiting Nurgle's decree to be released. The sacs pulsate with vile fluids, sustaining the demons as they slumber. Nurgle's will. The timing of the release is ultimately at the whim of Nurgle. Some demons are reborn quickly, while others are made to wait for what feels like eternity. Punishment or doom. Demons who have displeased Nurgle may be deliberately delayed, left to languish within their sacs. If Nurgle never grants his approval, the birthing sacs eventually dry out, causing the demon to experience true death, a rare and final death even for warp entities. The symbolic nature of the cycle. The gnarlwoods embody the central themes of Nurgle's domain: decay, persistence, renewal. They represent a paradoxical nature of Nurgle's power, where death and corruption are inseparable, linked to life and rebirth. And for Nurgle's followers, the gnarlwoods are sacred manifestations of the god's eternal cycle, even as they exude decay and despair. Yeah, so it's a demon birthing tree. That's pretty neat.
They have models of gnarlwood, I think, from like Warhammer Fantasy too, if I'm not mistaken. They? Yeah, I think they have like teeth and like they look almost. It's cool. I don't like them, but conceptually they're cool. Like I think the wood grain looks like fleshy.
I think you're thinking of the Feculent Gnarlmaw, but I could be wrong about that. I don't know what you're thinking, obviously, but
haven't you?
Yeah, I can't seem to find any on the Google search, but
yeah, it was an expansion to what do you call it, Warhammer Underworlds or whatever. And they had like little.
Oh yeah, Age of Sigmar. I could find it, but I can't find any. I was trying to pictures of miniatures, but
yeah. Anyways, if that is what I'm thinking of, I don't know Warhammer Fantasy obviously all that well, so but I believe that to be the case. And if not, it is canon now because I said so.
Mm-hmm. Your will is law.
Yeah. All right. Next up, we have the Deathbell Lily. The Deathbell Lily Fields are a grim and hauntingly beautiful aspect of the Garden of Nurgle, where the pallid lilies serve as a macabre tribute to the mortals who succumbed to the Lord of Decay's myriad plagues and ailments. The Deathbell lilies are pale, sickly flowers. Man, everything was a tongue twister here. The Deathbell lilies are pale, sickly flowers, each one tied to the life of a mortal in the physical universe. They grow in endless fields within the Garden of Nurgle, their petals delicate yet marred by the signs of rot and decay. Despite their ghastly appearance, they exude a strange, somber beauty that embodies the paradoxical nature of Nurgle's creations, blending death and grotesque form of vitality. Each Deathbell lily is connected to a mortal's life, and when that individual dies from one of Nurgle's countless afflictions, whether it be a horrific plague or a slow wasting illness, the flower emits a tiny resonant chime. Ding!
Ding!
This chime is soft yet unmistakable, a somber toll marking the mortal's final moments. It's cool too because bells are often like, again, with the whole symbolic thing of death. You always see like plague bearers and like it's just another symbol of Nurgle. The sound of these chimes fills the fields with an eerie melody, a constant reminder of Nurgle's reach into the mortal world. It is said that the chimes bring a twisted sense of joy to Nurgle, who views each death as a testament to his gifts spreading across the cosmos. Symbolism. The Deathbell Lily Fields symbolize Nurgle's dominion over life and death and his belief in the inevitability and universality of decay. Each chime represents Nurgle's influence, the spread of his plagues, and the proof of his power over mortality. The cycles of life and death. For Nurgle, death is not an end, but a step in an eternal cycle, mirrored by the continued presence of the Deathbell Lily even after the mortal's counterpart has perished. Perverse comfort. Nurgle takes joy in suffering of mortals, not out of malice, but because he sees it as a gift, and the lilies serve it to acknowledge and this is acknowledgement of their acceptance. So it says that every mortal is tied to a lily, but like, does that include, like, if you don't die of disease, do you still also have a flower, right? Like if you're just killed violently. And
Yeah,
claimed.
I would say so, because it's still a part of that cycle of death. And it's not like there's a limited space in this garden since it's in the warp. You know, there can be an infinite amount of
Space.
So I would say so.
Yeah. Okay. So even if you might not necessarily die from disease, yeah, I guess Nurgle always has a little place in all our hearts.
On that,
Yeah.
And on that note,
Yeah.
sorry, before we get going, there's also, just looking up here, there's also Deathbell Lily cultists who are gardeners devoted to spreading their beautiful flower. So that's kind of fun too.
It sounds like a cult you join, Jordan.
It definitely does.
You too are a gardener.
Grimaldus asked, does Grandfather Nurgle deflower you then?
Yes.
No comment.
He plucks your petals.
This is a family-friendly show, Grimaldus, I'll have you know.
In Nurgle's realm, the fields are said to stretch endlessly, creating an almost hypnotic atmosphere. The constant chime of the lilies forms a haunting symphony, mingling with the ever-present buzzing of Nurgle's flies and the bubbling of fetid boughs. The Deathbell Lily Fields are a place of both solemn reverence and grotesque celebration for the plague god and his followers. It's like a twisted Fields of Elysium.
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah, I like it. I like that.
Sorry, I was muted. So we're on to the next one. The Feculent Gnarlmaw. The Feculent Gnarlmaw is a grotesque and carnivorous demonic tree that serves as a manifestation of Nurgle's influence. These horrifying warp flora are both living weapons and icons of pestilence, found in the Garden of Nurgle and sometimes sprouting in real space wherever the plague god's corruption takes root. Their physical appearance, they have a toothy maw. So the most striking feature of the Feculent Gnarlmaw is the gaping mouth running up its trunk. Lined with razor-sharp teeth and ravenous maw suggests that the Gnarlmaw consumes more than just decay. It hungers for flesh. The corrupted branches. Few branches grow from the Gnarlmaw, but those that do are adorned with plague bells, tentacles, and boils oozing with pus. These branches are as grotesque as they are unnatural, adding to the tree's terrifying visage. Its infested base. The tree's trunk is surrounded by piles of skulls, remnants of those unfortunate enough to venture near it. The earth beneath is choked with decay, churned by maggots and carpeted in foul blossoms.
Sorry, Mark. I know what I was saying about the teeth would make you talk about the Gnarlmaw, but I did find a picture of the gnarl wood, and that was my error in describing them. They look like little nails at the end of the trees, not teeth. I guess it could be fangs, but yeah, there is a specific terrain set from Warhammer Fantasy that they made.
Okay.
Just
Cool.
while you're talking about gaping maws and trees.
Join our OnlyFans for gaping maws. Anyways.
Oh, God. Help us, Lord. Clouds of flies. Swarms of fatted plague flies constantly buzz around the Gnarlmaw, spreading disease and filth to everything in proximity. That's just a funny picture to me. Behavior and abilities, aura and decay. The Gnarlmaw exudes an aura of supernatural disease, sapping the vitality of nearby life forms and fostering despair. The plague bells. The tolling of its corrupted bells summons Nurgle's demons to the battlefield, drawing them like moths to a flame. The sound is a dull, maddening tone that resonates with the pestilence energy of Nurgle's realm. The spore clouds. The tree belches clouds of demonic spores into the air, spreading sickness and corruption. These spores accelerate the transformation of the environment into a festering wasteland. Rotten blossoms. The Gnarlmaw shreds rot wet blossoms, further corrupting the earth around it and bolstering Nurgle's forces. So their use on the battlefield, Nurgle's beacon. Wherever Nurgle's demons gather in great numbers, feculent Gnarlmaws have been known to spontaneously grow, sprouting up like grotesque monuments in the plague god's dominion. Support for demonic armies. On the battlefield, these trees serve as both icons of Nurgle's favor and tactical assets. Their presence strengthens demons in their vicinity, spreads disease among enemies, and provides cover in the form of choking rot clouds and swarms of flies. The significance in Nurgle's realm. In the Garden of Nurgle, feculent Gnarlmaws are ubiquitous. They are living extensions of the plague god's will. Their endless hunger and pestilence mirroring his unceasing efforts to spread decay. In Nurgle's twisted view, these trees are not horrors, but part of the cycle of life, consuming and reshaping matter into the ever-renewing bounty of his garden. Okay, so they're like the weeds of the warp.
The warp weeds. Ah, excellent.
There's a whole
dandelions of the warp.
there's a sub-faction of Grey Knights that are the Grey Knight gardeners who specialize in exterminating warp-based plant material.
They just use flamers and that's all, or flamers and gardening shears.
Yeah. And the occasional axe and have lumberjack type appearance. Yeah.
Yeah, that was all I was able to find. That's pretty cool. I can just kind of picture different types of trees that are aligned. Like, are there corn serving trees that just like devour you and like bleed you? Yeah, that'd be a good way to do it. They hang you from one of the branches and then like slit your wrist and bleed you out. Yeah, there could be all types of nasty. I know there is like we did one of these Herbarium and Bestiary episodes, and there was one of those trees that would do something similar, and then it would plant your corpse underneath its roots, and then it would feed on its sustenance that way.
The funny thing about these warp plants is that they just actually function like real plants. Also, like trees do this. If you die underneath a tree, it will consume you.
Yeah, but they're not actively trying to kill you.
That is true. It's more of a passive versus active act.
Yeah.
Mark, what does a Slaanesh tree do to you? And that's great. That's all we have.
Damn it! Like, now we have to do a warp episode part 2 of this so we can get into Slaaneshi trees.
Slaanesh trees.
Okay, we got some caller. Sorry, Christian, go for it.
We'll do the callers. I'll talk about it after.
We got some caller-ins now. Welcome to the stage, Grimaldus.
How's it going, guys?
What's
Very
up?
good.
Thanks for having me on.
Thanks for being here.
Yeah, what was your favorite kind of plant or animal or tree or life form here that we talked about?
I definitely like the Chaos series just because they're so undivided and so unpredictable. The Astral Hounds, they kind of stood out. There was a whole bunch of like fun stuff that they had done, just in terms of like how they hunt and seek out their prey.
Yeah, I like that flicking picture of the astral hounds where they just flick in and out of existence and leaving little wisps behind them.
And a little bit of a scream behind it. Yeah, I like that. I can't remember the name of the beast, but the shadow people and the voices. I can't remember it. You guys had mentioned something about Jordan being into the shadow people, dabbles in it a bit.
It was
More like
on
just
some-
the paranormal in general, but yeah, shadow people. Yeah, that's
but like the warp creatures that were kind of like banshees. What's the name of them?
Oh yeah.
It escapes from my mind.
Hmm.
Regardless.
Yeah. There's so many different and cool ones. If you could take one real life animal and throw it into the warp to see what you'd get, what do you think you'd want to do?
Mantis shrimp.
Oh god, yeah.
don't need to empower those things any more than they already are. They're already OP for our world.
I heard a fun fact about them today. If you had the same power as a mantis shrimp, you could throw a baseball out of orbit.
I feel like some days I could.
Nice. Okay. What are your other thoughts about this episode? You got anything else?
So the one thing I was thinking about, do you think any of these entities could be able to materialize outside of the warp without any sort of chaos god being involved or a warp rift being opened up? Or is it just these live inside the warp and that's all you'll ever see?
I feel like the enslavers are one of these where I guess yes and no. Like it's almost like the chicken and the egg. Like the enslavers, they come, they kind of implant in you, and then they make more enslavers. But they need that first warp rift, so it's like, yeah, maybe not. And same with a lot of those insect ones that implant the larvae in you. It's like, yeah, they reproduce in real space, but they still need to get there somehow. So yeah, I don't know.
Chicken or the egg? You're the chicken farmer. You tell us.
I don't know. I only fuck them. I don't know much about them.
Jesus.
Lorehammer will not be coming back next week. Sorry, guys. We have been canceled.
Yeah.
It's just going under a new name now. Hammer Lore.
Good point.
And then you guys were talking about High Marshal Helbrecht. I haven't seen or heard anything about his story about how he became High Marshal. And he was fighting, I can't remember the particular warp beast that he was dealing with. Is there anything out there that we can find?
I think he only became a sword brethren on that one, because I believe the way he became the High Marshal was some type of space battle.
Okay, but like even that story itself, is there somewhere that we can trace that info?
I think it just comes out of the codex, but let's do a quick Google search.
Okay.
Let's find some novels that he's been in.
And it was a vampire that he fought.
Did he sparkle?
Only because he was on fire from the flamer. So when I see sources for High Marshal Helbrecht, there's actually quite a few different sources from 8th edition, 5th edition. He's all the way back in 3rd edition and Codex Armageddon. Like he's a very old character. So
soon he's been in.
Soon, yeah. There's all type. I recommend just doing a quick Google search. I don't know where I got that. I got that off Lexicanum, I'm pretty sure. So,
oh, that's cool. I think that's really all I got there, fellas.
Yeah, nice.
One last quick thing. Don't forget to subscribe to Lorehammer. This is a nice pause for you guys. OnlyFans. Wait, pause. To the Patreon.
Yes, what he says. Cool. Well, thanks for joining us. We got one more call and guest. Join me on the stage is Icarus.
What up, guys?
What's up, buddy, for the second time today?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, me too. We did some RPG earlier today as well.
Yeah,
so he's
that was a lot of fun.
Making
a lot of fun.
And then I'm pretty sure you and Krishna are doing the OnlyFans later tonight, so you're getting that full host of people on.
And I'm waiting for it, man. I'm waiting for it. Take my money. Take my money.
Did you do some ice skating today?
No, it's not cold enough yet, but
Oh.
pretty soon I'm going to the ice hall in the city of Swole, in my country.
Swole.
Yeah, we have a city that is pronounced. If you're English, it's pronounced Swole.
Nice.
But
Gotta go.
yeah.
What are your thoughts on this episode? Did a particular creature, or you have any comments you want to say?
The Jaganesh, because not only has it
Ah.
a great range of opportunities for war effort. So imagine you take place like 2 Jaganesh in the Chaos Worshipper. I don't know, I forgot what they call it, just heretical guardsmen, and boom, you've got water supply. Pretty easy. Plus, I
Yeah.
think because it's not really specified, if you throw multiple liquids into it, can you like pull them out separately?
Yeah.
Do they mix?
That's
Listen,
sweet,
what I'm
sweet
hearing here
warp
is a
essence.
portable bar, I'm just saying, all your alcoholic needs are right there.
All you can
Absolutely.
drink warp juice, eh?
Do you think?
Exactly, man.
Hold on. Do you think they could ferment some death bells or something, going through the warp and then giving us just a straight line of
Honestly, you might be onto something, man. You might be onto something.
someone's
You
got to
might be
write
onto
it.
something.
Someone's got to write it.
Exactly, man.
Yeah, the Jagadesh is definitely the most unique out of all of these. There's
just
some
wondering. What that mouth do?
that it sucks.
just-
We know this. It sucks up
The
liquid.
opportunities, man. The opportunities.
In the comments, Jack says, yes, the reason the warp exists, alcohol. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Cool. Well, you've been very insightful here, Icarus. Very, very helpful.
Always,
in
man.
this-
Anytime. I'm still waiting to the day that you're regretting putting me on the RPG.
Well, until it's released, we don't have to worry about that day coming.
Exactly.
One day. Cool. Any closing thoughts, or we got a couple other people to get to too?
No. The great episode, guys. I only fell asleep once, so
Oh. New record. Well done,
new
boys.
record, Nah, you guys have a good one. I'm
Yeah, you
about
too.
to go to bed. It's
All right.
4:40 a.m.
Dream of one of these beasts, and it
Dream
might
of the
just be
trust
Jaganesh.
me. Oh, I'm dreaming of that Jaganesh, man. Don't you worry.
All right, cool. Thank you. All right, we will call up Fuzz to the stage next. Hey, welcome to the show.
Hey, how's it going, fellas?
Killer.
Good.
Good. Really enjoyed the episode. Just enjoy the podcast in general. That's why I am here talking to y'all's.
Oh, wait. Hold on. You have a Pokemon shirt for anyone who's not watching.
I do.
So what? So which creature would you capture?
Oh
In a
God.
Pokemon-
Which Pokemon, would you throw
Oh
into the warp?
no. Fuck. God, maybe one of the warp hounds.
Yeah, that's.
I
what was
really
thinking.
enjoyed those. Like those and the angels, I thought were super interesting. Just the way it described their combat tactics, like they move and attack silently. They can almost go kind of like to what Grimaldus is asking about. They can almost go into it out of the warp of their own volition. Like they need an outside energy source of another psyker, but they can just kind of almost like Nightcrawler, just bam, out of the warp, and they're there and they're just wrecking your shit.
Yeah.
Those kind of like Icarus, the Jagadesh also I thought was very, very interesting. Just as the one warp entity that's more of a utilitarian thing rather than a predator, and how the chaos has almost domesticated it for their own uses. I
Yeah.
thought was very interesting.
Yeah, what does the Jagadesh get out of it? I guess maybe it consumes some of its liquids, or is it maybe an aspect of gluttony or something? Or
It
what-
just
Yeah.
seems to me though like a completely instinctual creature. It doesn't really. It's just for survival, right? It needs to reproduce itself. Blah blah blah.
Oh yeah.
To me, that's how I view it. But
I agree. Like it's a native warp creature that just in doing what it does,
yeah.
they've just found a way to exploit that. There's a show on HBO, like on Max, like the last year or two, a cartoon that came out about like a stranded group of like spaceship people on a planet, and I cannot remember for the life of me the name of it, but they basically do that same thing. Like as they're going and exploring this planet that they've crash landed on, they just learn how to use the different animals on it and like adapt them to different things, like use them as like respirators or using the different animals as like flotation devices and shit. Just, this animal acts like this, so I'm going to find a way to exploit it for my own benefit.
Yeah.
I said that the human thing to do. I love it.
Exactly. Yes. Let me find nature and figure out how to bend it to my will. Perfect.
Very cool. Yeah, if you could encounter one creature, what would you want to encounter? What do you think you can beat up in a fight?
Oh my god, what do I? Maybe a Jagganash, because I can put it in a jar. Which probably be like, yeah, I'll just it can condense into like a glass mason jar, and I'll stick it in my closet, and it will live there for the rest of its life.
Perfect. Okay.
It's the safe play. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, everything else. I mean, yeah, would absolutely implant something in me or just rip me apart and drag me into the warp. Seems to be the theme of the night.
Yeah.
It's
Just
true.
the way the warp intended.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
the Jagganash is like the least scary of all the creatures.
Right.
But
It's
the
like
most
a
like
sourdough
the most
where you got to still feed it though if you capture
Right.
it every now and again.
Right. You have to feed it every 3 weeks or something.
It's nice. Do you have any other closing thoughts on anything, or good to?
No, it was very nice to finally be able to have the time to get on at the end of an episode, and thanks for
Yeah.
having me.
Yeah. I've seen you now on a couple episodes, so it's cool to kind of put a face to the name in the chat. Always a pleasure, man. Hope to see you on the next one.
Righteous.
yeah, good to meet you.
You too.
All right, and the final caller for the night is Purge. Welcome, front and center.
Howdy, is my mic sounding good for you guys?
Yeah, sounds perfect.
All right, cool. So my first question is, if beastmen were put in the warp, is that how we get the furries from Flash Gits?
I don't like that, but yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Because then the dildo furry would be the most terrifying monster in the warp.
Yeah. So is that how Hellbridge ascended to High Marshal? He was crushing some furries down, or?
I
Is this
mean, we
Black
can
Death
only
Book
go with
veteran?
that. Yeah.
It only makes sense, I think. Yeah, great. That's a great image to put in my mind. I fucking hate those fucking furries.
My favorite
Both in
creature,
real
though,
life.
on the actual episode were the vampires. Just because it opens up a whole avenue for cryptoids, like a Bigfoot warp monster or a Wendigo warp monster.
Sure. Yeah, I'm just
Absolutely.
like, somebody needs to call Sam and Dean Winchester. We got a fucking warp infestation of vampires.
Yeah. Like I said, I just like the vampires because of you could go wild with that. And like you were talking before, like the hounds are kind of like hellhounds. So just any kind of mythological creature, you throw it in the warp, and it's like, okay, how more terrifying can we make it than what was in folklore?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I love the concept of like the vampires taking on the different forms of the races, I said the orc vampire, like pretty weird. Like, how long would he go being able to just kill other orcs and feed on people before they're like, hey, something's off with this guy? Like, could be a while.
And if he's on like one of those feral planets, like would the Imperium even find out about it until it's like too late? Like, oh, we sent this chapter here, and this orc just like literally drank all their blood and killed them all.
Seems pretty orky to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any other thoughts or comments on them?
No, that's all I really had.
Do you like vampires in like every kind of setting, or?
Personally, not really. I like the old mythos vampires where they're like ugly and deformed and all that stuff, but now they're all like these little pretty sparkling boys that are pedophiling on little girls.
Yeah. I loved In the Shadow.
All the twilightification of
Yeah.
vampires. Is what it's
Yeah,
called?
yeah.
I
Or
love
the same
what
thing
they
with
do in the
werewolves,
shadows
too.
when you know, the one character falls in love with the old lady. It's just this old. It's the reverse for once, you know.
Yeah, but
So
that's acceptable. You know,
young
cougars are
soldier.
okay. Pedophilia, is,
Yeah.
not so much.
They're all good. Yeah.
Yeah, I like
Cool.
what you're saying there about like opening the door to all kinds of cryptids, right? Like now all of a sudden, like skinwalkers and like everything's on the table potentially as like a warp beast.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
Or are they already war beasts? You know, like
Yeah, right, exactly.
they-
Like that's what they appear as to us, like because we don't know what warp things are yet, right?
All right, the
Right.
great.
Some people think
aliens.
Bigfoot is like a interdimensional jumper or whatever, and that's why we can't ever find him, because he actually can jump to other fucking dimensions or whatever.
Oh
so.
my god, that is almost like the leading theory now among the
Yeah.
paranormal.
Scholars,
That-
cryptid
that-
scholars that
that
Jordan.
Bigfoot is like in some sort of. Actually, a lot of people that a lot of eyewitnesses, people who report Bigfoot, report like also seeing UFOs coinciding with a Bigfoot experience. So, just as a
Yeah,
little side note.
really
Yeah.
big into cryptozoology, but we don't need to go down that road because that's a whole nother hour
Yeah.
conversation
Another
in a different podcast. Yeah.
Yeah. Bigfoot equals crotolid. So, you know, they have the ability to open little warp portals for themselves and jump around. Yeah, perfect.
Absolutely.
Or it makes me think of like the SCP version of Bigfoot where they're like super smart and then they got like de-evolved, which reminds me of the space apes kind of that can use weapons and all that stuff.
Yeah.
The orangutan looking guys.
Yeah, the
Yep,
Jacaro.
them.
We just had like we did an episode and we were talking about relics, artifacts, and Xenos curiosities, and we talked about the Jacaro for a hot second and how where they might get their intelligence from. It was a very interesting episode. So if you haven't listened to the episode before this one, go do that one. I don't want to try to say it because it was a crazy rant we got into, crazy topic. But
Well, I listened
yet.
to it. My main takeaway from that one is we need necro technology so we can make our bat hammer out of crews.
yeah. Very cool. All right. Any other thoughts or?
No, I'm good. You guys enjoy your night.
Yeah, you too. Thank you so much for calling in and yeah, for your input. Because now we're all thinking of all the different cryptodes that might be in 40K.
All right. Talk to you all later. Bye.
See ya.
All right. Well, that's a show. Thanks to all the callers for calling in. We do really appreciate it. You have to be a Patreon member to do that. And we do appreciate the support. We just got some end notes here real quick. If you like listening to me attempt to read, I don't know why the fuck you would, but go listen to Lorehammer Listen to Lore podcast. I attempt to read your lore and then I give you guys some feedback. There's a lot of cool stuff on there that you guys have submitted and continue to submit. My inbox is flooded with emails, but don't worry. I'll read them one day. We'll get there.
Yeah, and if you like me and Jordan, you like Star Wars, you can go check us out at the Star Lores podcast. That's Star Lores with an L. Yeah, we just talk about similar to this, but all Star Wars related content. So you can go listen to us on there and message us there as well.
You guys got a different vibe though. Like you guys put some actual effort into the production side of things, and you'd read it and effort, I think, is the word I'm looking for.
Yeah. Yeah, music, sound effects, quotes, that kind of stuff. So we have like
we can record like with each other, so it's a bit of a different dynamic than over the internet, but yeah, it's fun. It's a little shorter than these, so driving to work, driving home from work, you could probably bang out an episode. So go check it out.
Very nice. Yeah. And today for Patreon members, since we've been banging out episodes this week, it's only been a day, but we got King Size Coffin. So thank you so much for supporting the show. We appreciate all the dollars that everyone has sent in. Yeah.
Is he donating money, or did he donate a king-sized coffin to put the three of us in?
That's a threat, this son of a bitch. Cool. Well, thanks everyone for listening, and we'll see you all on the next episode. I think we're doing a live stream tomorrow, and it's going to be on Bellicor, the first Damned. So hope to see you all there. Adios.